Wow, get a load of these skyscrapers. It's been a while since a vehicle has made me feel small. And frankly, Jeff Glucker, who's 6'4", would be better suited to this, but poor guy's in jury duty. So you get me. Anyway, this is the 2018 Cadillac Escalade ESV Platinum, and this is the 2018 Lincoln Navigator Black Label, both full-size luxury SUVs, and we're gonna compare them. Now I'll start by saying this is a very, very close comparison, but not a one-to-one, simply because this is the extended version of the Escalade, while this is just the regular Navigator. There is an L version that adds more girth to the rear end. This is also four-wheel drive and this is rear-wheel drive, but you can get four-wheel drive with this. So you see how it's like close, but it's not exact. We will keep that in mind as we go through these details. When you buy a vehicle like this, it's about making a statement. So you need a prominent front end, and how Lincoln has done it is applied their new corporate grille to a giant proportion. This thing is massive and it's got a big Lincoln logo right in the center, and I think it looks better in this application than it does in some of their sedans, but I'm not in love with it per se. The rest of the front end is very handsome. These LED daytime running lights and a very sculpted headlight figure, this lower fascia with a nice bit of chrome, but not overdoing it, also with these blacked out accents that are part of the Black Label package. It's a good looking front end, and the hood has these nice creases on it. Yeah, I'm digging most of what they've got going on over here. The Escalade, meanwhile, has, well, it's been using the same front fascia for a while, but I think it still looks good. It's still very impactful, especially for the size of the vehicle. Wide grille, a lot of slats in it, and this brushed metal finish. It's not exactly bright chrome, and on a gray day like this, it's even more muted, but it just works with the car. And then you've got your Cadillac logo in a wide format, goes with the width of the vehicle, matched by these LED daytime running lights that run the whole height of the car, this strip that follows along the outside perimeter. Then there's the headlight themselves, which look like these jeweled creations. You've got an oblong piece of crystal looking stuff for the headlight, and then these cylindrical pieces on the inside. It captures the eye and I think looks much more intricate than the Lincoln Navigator setup up front. All right, let's talk about wheels for a second. Both of these top-of-the-line models are riding on 22-inch rims. That's going to impact ride quality, but it's also about the visual impact. So the Lincoln Navigator has these hypnotic wheel designs in black and brushed metal. Maybe they just want you to get so enraptured by the wheels that you'll just have to go buy this one. The Cadillac, meanwhile, goes for a much brighter finish to its wheel, and it doesn't look as high quality, especially not with this plastic hub on it, but it does have bright red 6-piston Brembo brakes on the inside, so you know it's going to be able to haul down this big rig. Now here in profile, you can see what Lincoln has done with the overall aesthetic of the Navigator. They've kept it rounded and more tiered than the Escalade. They also have this frameless C-pillar that creates visual separation between the bottom and the top of the car. At the back, this blacked out panel creates a glass panorama effect around the rear, along with this LED tail light that runs the whole width of the tailgate that goes with Lincoln spelled out on that tailgate. In contrast with the Navigator's rounded exterior, the Escalade has a much straighter cut design, much more boxy, I would say, and it works very well for the brash in-your-face design elements, the brushed chrome, all those features. Here at the rear, we see continuity with the front LED beams that stretch the whole height of the car. Here we have these light towers at the rear that go from the top all the way to the tailgate bottom. You also have some width here with the chrome beam that goes and connects the Cadillac logo. Yeah, they're playing with this width and height thing very well with the Cadillac, as they kind of do with the Navigator. Two very different design strategies for their full-size luxury SUVs, and you know, even though this has some newness to the exterior, I gotta give it to the Cadillac Escalade. It just fits the whole package better. Lincoln powers its behemoth with a 3.5-liter twin-turbocharged V6 that makes 450 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque. That is connected to a 10-speed automatic transmission, 0 to 60 somewhere in the 5.5-second range. That is pretty quick for a vehicle of this size. Cadillac adds a couple of cylinders. They've got a 6.2-liter V8 that makes 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. That is also connected to a 10-speed automatic, 0 to 60 somewhere in the 5.8-second range. Just looking at the figures, the Lincoln Navigator's greater power and improved fuel economy, 19 combined, to the Escalade's 18 combined, wins this round. Even luxury owners have some need for utility. In the Escalade, you have a space under this hydraulic lifting floor, and then power folding rear seats. Third row, second row, and then press this button one more time, and they pop all the way up. With all the rows folded, you've got 120.9 cubic feet of storage. If you have all the rows up, just behind the third row, you've got 39.3 cubic feet of space. Now, once again, this is not the L, this is not the extended version of the Lincoln Navigator, but let's pretend it is for a moment. You still have 3 rows regardless of orientation for your Navigator, and if it was the L behind the third row, you'd have 36 cubic feet of space, and if you folded everything, you'd have about 120 cubic feet of space, very close to that Cadillac Escalade. Now, we can fold the third row at the press of a button, but this process is far slower than the Escalade, and putting it up is even slower than that. You can also fold the second row, but they won't pop up like they do on the Cadillac Escalade. You also have this permanent center console on the second row that cuts into your storage space just a tiny bit. Now, these vehicles are first and foremost about carrying a lot of people in comfort. So with the Escalade, you've got a pair of captain seats in the second row and then a bench setup in the third row. You can carry 7 people in this vehicle. One thing I noticed is there is no panoramic glass sunroof, and what you get with that is sort of a dark, somber interior presence. It is Alcantara headliner, so it's comfortable. You also have 4 screens, 2 in the headrests and 2 that pop down from the top here. So all of your passengers are going to have their infotainment, or their entertainment, sorry. And there's also plenty of connectivity. You've got HDMI and USB ports here. You've got a normal 3-prong plug-in, and then your 12-volt plug-in down there. Yeah, there's plenty of space and connectivity. Now, in the back of the Lincoln Navigator Black Label, this feels instantly more luxurious than the Escalade. It's the color of the leather, it's the softness of the materials, the detailing on the seats, the comfort level, the panoramic glass sunroof creating a sense of space, and the center console, while maybe cutting into storage a bit, creates this really business class environment back here. Yeah, I gotta say, this is a serious upgrade over the Escalade. Like the Escalade, there's plenty of connectivity for second and third row passengers. You've got 2 USB ports, a 12-volt and 110-volt 3-prong down there. You don't have the standard rear seat entertainment. You can option on a pair of rear seat headrest monitors, but you don't have the drop-down monitors for the second and third row. Here in the driver's cockpit, there's a lot of glitz and glamour. You've got brushed metal and this sort of anthracite-styled insert for the center console, and along the dash, there's also a pair of big monitors to look at. You've got a 12-inch driver display and a 10-inch infotainment that juts out from the center dashboard. This has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It has your navigation and your climate control settings, or there are physical buttons down here. I like physical touch points. This has some. The drive selection is here on the dashboard itself, not on the stock like the Escalade. There's also plenty of storage here. Under the center console, you've got big cubbies. In the compartments, you've got a place for your phone that'll do wireless charging. You've got cup holders, and then this expands, this removes, and a big cavernous cubby in the center console. Very versatile, very classy. I dig what Lincoln's got going on here. Here in the Cadillac Escalade, there is lots of leather. That is the first thing I noticed about this cabin. There is this tan leather coating everywhere. It makes it feel very luxurious, but also because of the orientation of the dashboard, it feels almost cosseted. There's not much room, especially by comparison to the Navigator. When there isn't leather, you've got piano black for this center stack, and well, it smudges very easily, as all piano black does. And up here is Cadillac's Q infotainment system on an 8-inch display. It feels very diminutive by comparison to the Navigator. And Q is just not intuitive. It's gotten better over the generations, but it's still far too complicated with its haptic feedback and all of the complex menu structures. I much prefer a simpler display or one with some physical buttons. Apart from that, you've got a digital display here, not as big as the Navigator, with your media and your telemetry data and your navigation and reconfigurable menus. There isn't a tremendous amount of storage in this center console. If you push back this wood grain gloss finish, you've got 2 USB connection ports, a 12 volt, and then this button here, which looks like a snowflake. I wonder what that's for. Open the center console and you see that you've got a little fridge in here. It takes up your entire center console, and if you're not using the cooling element to it, you can store some things inside it, but there's not a whole lot of storage. Got a couple cup holders, but yeah, there's a lack of cubby space in the Escalade, that is for sure. It's clear to me that Lincoln has spent a great deal of time on this interior. The technology, the aesthetic, the comfort, it's all there. I gotta give it the win over the Escalade. The first thing I have to talk about is the level of adjustability for these front 2 chairs. 30-way power adjustable. It is an option, but I would suggest choosing it because 1, you get massaging, which who doesn't want their butt massaged while driving? But 2, you can tailor each different part of the seat to just your body type and make it so comfortable for your daily driving pleasure. I love that. You also have a head-up display that works in conjunction with a digital driver display to give you all the necessary information. And one thing I noticed is that Lincoln's specific font is on both the head-up display and the infotainment. It's kind of a neat little detail that makes the car feel extra special. I dig that. Also, I'm finding this infotainment system very easy to use, and the big display along with CarPlay and Ford's Sync 3 system that it shares with Lincoln is just so intuitive. I love this setup. But man, just the feeling of space and power from your good riding position, Lincoln has done a great job with this cabin configuration. Performance and driving dynamics are pretty good when you've got 450 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque. When you put your foot down, good things happen, even in a car that weighs well over 2.5 tons. And the ride quality it's good, but it's not quite as supple as I was hoping for, and that could just be the credit of the 22-inch wheels that doesn't create much margin of your tire for comfort. But yeah, I'm very impressed with how it handles itself, and even in corners, it controls the body roll reasonably well. Now, being as big as it is, when you put your foot on the brake and have to come to a complete stop, there is quite a bit of nosedive, but it does come to a stop, and that's the important part. The first thing to discuss with the Escalade is, of course, comfort, and there's plenty of it. Even though it's riding on the same size wheels as the Navigator, I feel like the ride quality is a little softer, and the seats are simply just not as good as the Navigator. They can't adjust in the same way the Navigators do, and I feel like it's a one-size-fits-all setup here. They're certainly comfortable, but not to the same degree. The visibility in this car is quite good, especially with this digital rear view monitor. You turn that on and whatever is behind you in the cabin fades away because you're looking straight through to the back of the car. It also has a head-up display, but the readout looks a little outdated, kind of like some of the technology on the interior of the car. Performance-wise, I really like the sound of a V8. I mean, even though it's using a little more gas, it can run with cylinder deactivation to save fuel, but really all I want to hear is that rumble. Ooh, yeah, the Lincoln Navigator's twin-turbo V6 has nothing on that. And even though the performance numbers suggest that the Navigator is faster, this feels quicker, and it's probably just that sense of speed that you get when you're moving a vehicle this big with a powertrain this robust. Handling is decently good. It controls the body roll well, and when you put your foot into the brake pedal, it will haul the vehicle down, even though there is significant nosedive. But it's clear that, GM makes performance products very well, and some of those same engineering principles are applied to a vehicle of this size. It feels well put together. So there you have it, the 2018 Cadillac Escalade ESV Platinum versus the 2018 Lincoln Navigator Black Label. Let's call it the L for a fair comparison here. Price, about the same, $96,000. They're actually only within $110 of each other, so that's not a factor here. But if we're looking at the tally, the Escalade, slight edge in exterior styling and driving dynamics, but the Lincoln Navigator just blows it away in all the other regards. Interior comfort, interior technology, power, fuel economy, all the things that a luxury buyer is considering, the Navigator wins all of those. This, therefore, is our pick.